Guys, it's Audra. Welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be the top 10 reasons why you need to be eating salt. And I know that I've done a video on salt in the past, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and share with you guys some more research from a scientific perspective to maybe sway you to my side on this, because at the end of the day, it's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of what does the scientific literature say and what is actually going on from a health standpoint. And I really want to encourage you guys, like one of my main goals is to understand that just because something might be working or might be showing like positive benefits or something like that for somebody else does not necessarily, number one, mean that it's going to work for you, and number two, mean that it is actually healthy at the end of the day. There's so much information out there floating around, and a lot of people like to think that just because you get a positive side effect from something from a cultural or societal standpoint, like for example, just because you lose 30 pounds, then obviously that is a positive result. But my whole thing is, well, in what situation is that a positive result? Because losing 30 pounds for one person might be a beneficial thing, but losing 30 pounds for the next person might not. So at the end of the day, it's not a matter of opinion, it's not a matter of cultural norms or societal preferences, it's a matter of health. And that's what I want to promote, is actual, real legit health. Not my opinion, not what I think is right, not what works for me because I do it, but actually what is working from a scientific, biological standpoint that you can actually hang your hat on and feel confident about at the end of the day, because you know you're doing the right thing for your body. You're doing it because it has been proven. It's not because it's something that Susie says you need to do, just because she did it and hey, look at her, like she's whatever, you know? So that's my goal. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 reasons why I believe you need to be eating salt. And let's get started. So first I want to do a little introduction, just talk about why is this even important? Like, why are we even talking about this? Like, who even cares? Well, number one, sodium is very, very, very important for our bodies, specifically for our bodies to work properly. It controls our blood pressure and our blood volume. So we need it for our muscles, we need it for our nerves, we need it for everything to work properly in our body. So some of the most common foods that you can get sodium from is you can get it from milk, which obviously a lot of people who are watching this probably aren't going to drink milk. You can get it from beets, you can get it from celery, you can get it from salt, and you can even get it from foods that have added salt or sodium or whatever too. There's a lot of different sources that you can get sodium from. Now, a lot of people will argue, we just need sodium. It's not salt. Salt is so bad for you. Salt is toxic. Salt is going to kill you. Like, stay away from salt. Let's be raw as possible, like raw as law, like on and on and on and on. And like, that's fine, you know, but the thing is, if you're going to, at the end of the day, like try to get all of your sodium needs from celery, you're going to have to eat a heck of a lot of celery. And I mean like a lot of celery, not just like a couple of sprigs a day or even a full leaflet a day or whatever. Like, you're going to need to eat a lot of celery. Now, granted, a lot of food does have natural occurring sodium in it, but not enough to get to the level that you need to where you can actually be seeing these positive benefits. So I just want to get that out of the way, and I want to talk about why salt is the preferred source. Salt is so awesome, and it's going to do so much for your body. So let's get started. Now, a lot of people will say that every time they eat salt, they get bloated, they retain water, they get puffy eyes, they gain weight, they feel awful, they feel tired, like everything in their body is just so messed up. So this must mean I am doing something wrong, because anything that makes me feel bad must mean that it's unhealthy, right? Well, no, that is not right. Sometimes our bodies react to things in different ways. We can't just look at it and say, I did this and it hurt me, or it made me feel uncomfortable, or it made me feel bad, so therefore it must be unhealthy. That is bad logic, specifically when it comes to the human body. There's so many different processes going on that you have to take into account, and just to say I ate salt and I bloated up, that's considered a bad thing from a societal perspective. That must be unhealthy, so I don't need to eat salt. That is not true. That is not the logic you want to follow. So number one, Sodium depletion and low salt diets can lead to overtraining symptoms in people. What are these type of symptoms? Number one symptom would be that you would be experiencing hard, difficult sleep schedules, like you're very restless, you have sleep disorders, you're not sleeping well at night, like you just can't rest. Number two, you would either have very high levels of blood pressure or very low levels of blood pressure. Specifically in this study that was done, they showed that they had higher levels of blood pressure, but there's other studies that have been done that also show that low salt diets can cause low blood pressure. So you don't want to be experiencing overtraining symptoms when you're really not even overtraining, specifically if you're not training at all. Like if you're doing super low salt diets and you're walking around and you're like not able to sleep, you have super high blood pressure, or even low blood pressure, you're tired all the time and that type of thing, you might want to reconsider it. It does have those type of symptoms. Number two, yes, by decreasing your salt intake, you might find that your blood pressure lowers a little bit, specifically if you suffered from hypertension in the past. I know that a lot of people who deal with hypertension and they have heart issues, doctors tell them go on a lower salt diet type of thing. And in that case, most of these people probably do. Like everything that they're eating is just filled with salt. Like they're getting way too much salt. But at the same time, even though it might lower your blood pressure, it actually has been shown to increase your triglycerides and your LDL bad cholesterol, in addition to increasing your stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. So this is a huge thing, and I'm not gonna like chase a rabbit here or anything, but I think this would be worth looking into more, because number one, you hear about thousands of people on a high carb, low fat lifestyle, particularly the higher fruit people who suffer from high triglycerides. And everyone's like, why do, I eat so healthy, I eat so organic, like I'm not eating a lot of fat. Why are my triglycerides crazy? And there's been tons and tons of different postulations about this. Maybe it's because you're eating too much and you're not burning off all of that extra calories like you should be, or like your body would be. Maybe you're eating 5,000 calories a day and it's just not getting burned off. Or maybe there's some type of messed up thing from your past where your triglycerides are really high from your poor diet. Like, everybody has their opinions, but I thought this was interesting because this is actually a scientific study that was done that showed that low salt diets, which just about everybody out in the high carb, low fat vegan community is on, have been shown to raise your triglycerides. I do think that is something that needs to be considered. If you've been to the doctor and you've got your blood test and they're like, geez, like your triglycerides are super high and you haven't been eating any salt, like that might be a part of your problem. I'm not saying it is your problem, but I'm saying it's worth looking into and even adjusting a little bit, because if it's just as simple as just adding some salt to your diet, then there you go. In addition to this, it also said that the people on low sodium diets also experience the increase in cortisol and adrenaline, which are your stress hormones. And we all know that the last thing that you want in your life is stress. Stress is awful for your body, awful for your mind, awful for your health, all the way around. So the lower that your stress can be, the better off you're gonna be. Specifically from a weight standpoint, a lot of people wonder, why in the world can I not lose weight? Like, I'm doing everything right. Well, if you were like stressed out either from an emotional perspective or from a physical perspective, and according to this study, a low salt diet is a stress on your body because it's raising your cortisol levels very high and your adrenaline very high. You can get your cortisol tested as well. Like you can go you can even do this like at home. Like you can get a saliva test ordered online and they send it to your house and you spit in these little tubes and you send it back and they'll test your cortisol for you. You can test it like morning, afternoon, night. You can test it up to like 5 times a day. So if you want to check that out, you can definitely do that. Again, I would just say eat a little bit of salt. It's probably going to help chill you out a whole lot and bring those stress hormone levels down. So another study actually showed that low salt diets actually increased insulin resistance in healthy people. So again, insulin, this is like the precursor to type 2 diabetes. So it's not just about the idea of thinking like, oh, I'm eating so healthy and like I have no health problems, I'm never gonna get a disease and all that type of stuff. If you are missing this, like if you're missing the salt in your diet, you could definitely be messing with your insulin. So again, you have to look at your body from a holistic perspective. People think, if I follow a perfect diet, I'm never going to get diabetes. If I do this and I cut out this and I have this rule and I follow this, I'm never going to have these problems. The body does not work like that. It is a whole functioning organism that is constantly changing. It's constantly adapting. And it's not like a machine where you put in a quarter and you get this result. It doesn't happen like that all the time. It's constantly changing. There's constantly different biological processes that are going on that you don't even know about. Like, just because you're seeing something on the outside doesn't mean that things on the inside aren't working right or aren't working wrong. So you need to be sure that you are being very, very cognizant of this. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but I'm just saying, realize that just what you see on the outside is not a good indicator of what's going on the inside. And you need to be aware of that. Specifically, when you're looking at other people as like your idol or something. Like, if you idolize this person and you're just like, well, he or she does this, so I might be able to do that too. Do not fall into that trap. I always talk about this. You are your own person. You have your own body. You have your own metabolism, makeup, everything. So thinking that what's working for Susie does not mean it's going to work for you. And at the end of the day, let Susie do what Susie wants to do. Like, if she wants to do this, that's fine. Let her do that. You focus on you. And if you want to share some information with Susie and be like, hey, Susie, I noticed you're doing this, but maybe you want to consider this, that would be an even better idea. So number 4, those who had moderate salt intake in this other study were seen to live longer than the people who had low salt intake or high salt intake. So what is moderate salt intake? According to this study, it's 4,000 milligrams a day. That would be about 2 teaspoons a day. So the people who were eating salt moderately actually lived longer than the people who had very low diets in salt and very high salt diets as well. So that's just something to consider. If you're one of these people who wants to live to be 200 years old, you might want to consider upping your salt a little bit. 5 is, if you're experiencing any type of symptoms like low blood pressure, low body temperature, maybe you have really brittle hair, really brittle nails, maybe you're constantly cold all the time, like specifically the tips of your fingers, your feet, your toes, your nose, like you're the cold person all the time, I would really encourage you to start eating more salt. Just whenever you start feeling cold, go eat something salty. Eat some pretzels, eat some crackers, eat a potato sprinkled with some salt, or anything at all that has salt in it, and you'll notice like instantaneously that you start to warm up. Salt is very warming for your body, specifically if you're having these type of symptoms, and a lot of these are hypothyroid symptoms. So you can play with this and see. I know for me, anytime I get cold, if I just go eat something salty, it works like a charm. And this has happened for many, many people that I work with. They say the same thing, like they'll eat something salty and they feel awesome afterwards. Number 6 is that salt actually supports hydration. So many people think that eating salt is going to dehydrate you, and that is not the case at all. Salt is such a hydrator for your body, specifically for those people who are into intense exercise, and specifically for those people who sweat a lot, whether that's through exercise, through working outside, through just whatever. Like, if you're losing a lot of water, like a lot of sweat, this is a major, major thing that you need to listen to. So if your body gets to where it has too low salt and it has too much water, you can actually suffer for something called hyponatremia. And basically what this is that your body will start showing you signs that are very, very severe. Some people can just like pass out, they can go into a coma, you start getting very nauseous, you have muscle pain, fatigue, like you just don't feel right. Specifically if you're someone who drinks a lot of water, you don't eat a lot of salt, and you're sweating a lot, specifically if you're an athlete or you're outside all the time or something like that. If you're exercising in the hot weather, or like you're just sweating a lot in general, sodium loading actually can be something that would be very, very beneficial for you. So what this would do is that it would reduce your body's need to keep straining, and then it would also increase the volume of fluid that's in your body. So if you remember, I don't know if they still do this, but I know that when I was in high school, they would give like football players and stuff like that salt tablets to take during like practice or games or whatever when they were out there running around in like 95-degree weather and they're sweating like crazy, they would give them salt because people knew that was going to help hydrate them because they'd eat the salt and then they'd also drink water and it would help balance out the electrolytes in their body. And by doing this salt loading, you're actually able to go longer and harder. If you're an endurance athlete, I'm not a big fan of endurance athletics at all. You can watch my video about why that's like totally wrong in my opinion and through research as well. But if you are doing that, and if maybe you're not even really that big of an athlete, maybe you're just outside and you just sweat a lot because of your job or whatever, you need to be sure that you are replacing that with salt, that you are restoring the salt levels in your body. This is huge for your electrolyte balances. And if you're not eating a lot of salt and you're drinking a ton of water, you can actually end up just peeing out all of your electrolytes. Like you just keep drinking and drinking and drinking water while you're sweating and everything, and it's just like your electrolytes are so messed up, specifically if you're not restoring it with salt. Low salt diets had a higher risk of stroke, heart attack, and death. This actually comes from a 2011 study that was done in the Journal of American Medical Association. This is like another one of those things, you know, you think you have this perfect diet and like everything's going great and you eat fruits and vegetables or you eat really clean or whatever, you know, but you're staying away from salt. Well, this study showed that people who did this actually had a higher level of stroke, heart attack, all that type of stuff, all because of their lack of salt in their diet. So again, it doesn't really depend on just what you're eating. Like you've got to be sure everything is going right. So number 8 is actually, I believe, the most important point to understanding why people retain so much water when they do eat salt. Like I see all this stuff on YouTube, people doing salt experiments, and then people like posting about, oh my gosh, I went out to eat last night and now I'm like so puffy, I'm gonna have to like detox for the next week and get all this water out of me and blah, blah, blah. You know, I haven't had salt in forever and salt is so bad for you and it makes me so bloated and like on and on and on. Like, okay, I get it, you know, but this is the scientific reason why you are retaining water when you eat salt. It's not because you're some freak of nature that can't eat salt. Like, that's not what it is. Basically, what happens is this, and this information is coming from a 1990 study that Harvard. I'm just gonna kind of read this off because this is so important and this explains everything. And I want you to follow along. It is kind of wordy and complicated, but it will help you understand exactly what's going on. So what they did was the researchers put these people on a 6-day, like almost zero sodium diet for the most part. Now granted, they are getting some sodium from certain foods, but they just said no salt, like you're not gonna have like any table salt, like nothing. Basically what most of us high carb, low fat people do on a day-to-day basis, every day, week in, week out, like month in, month out, year in, year out. Like we just are super low sodium. So they say, let's do this for 6 days. We're gonna measure their urine sodium levels, their blood serum sodium levels, and also their aldosterone levels. Now, aldosterone is the hormone in your body that is responsible for the reabsorption and the retaining of water and sodium in your body, okay? This is very important, so follow with me here. And I wanna show you guys this little chart that I made, okay? I hope you can read this. Okay, so right here at the top, or over here, you can see that it says urinary sodium, aldosterone, and serum, or serum just means blood sodium, okay? So what they did was they said, let me see if I can hold this a little better. I hope you guys can read this. Okay, so right here, this is the urinary sodium, this is aldosterone, and this is the serum or the blood sodium down here, okay? So here's the little chart. Their initial levels was on day, like before they even started, their urinary sodium levels were 217 millimoles a day. Their aldosterone was 2.4 nanograms per 100 milliliters, and their serum blood sodium was 139 milliequivalents per liter. Okay, so here's what happened. Let me kind of back that out. Here's what happened. On day 1, urinary sodium was 105. On day 2, it would drop down to 59, and on day 3, it dropped down to 9.9 millimoles per day. So as you can see, just over 6 days, it dropped from 217 to 19.9 in 6 days. Basically, what that means is that they were no longer, like, they were excreting almost, literally 9.9 millimoles of sodium per day from their urine. So this is like nothing, right? So you'd think, oh great, like we got all the sodium out of our body, right? Well, not exactly, because down here you can see on day 1, or from initial it was 139, day 1 is 139, day 2 is 139, day 6 it drops 1 point and we're down to 138. And this is your serum blood sodium, okay? This is a sodium that's actually in your blood. So it wasn't that you were totally excreting all of the sodium from your body. It was just like that stayed the same, that stayed constant. But here is the kicker, this aldosterone, okay? So before they even started, we were at 10.4, 11.7 by day 1, by day 2, 22.5. So it had doubled in 2 days, from 10.4 to 22.5. It had more than doubled. On day 6, it moves to 37. So literally, it's over, like it has more than tripled in 6 days. It has moved to 37 nanograms per 100 milliliters. Now, this is the whole reason why anybody will retain water when they have totally said, like, I'm not eating any salt, and then they start eating salt again. Your aldosterone is a hormone in your body that is responsible for the regulation, the retaining, and the reabsorption of water and sodium. So again, when sodium gets super, super low, your aldosterone is going to increase like crazy. In 6 days, it more than tripled. So when your aldosterone is super, super high, whenever there's an intake of sodium, your body is going to hold on to everything that it can, because your aldosterone is like, here it comes, like, oh my gosh, like this is my job. I'm supposed to hold on to this and reabsorb it and everything. So your kidneys are going to be working to filter this, to work through this and get it to your circulatory system, where then it goes to the rest of your body and you just walk around like a balloon because your aldosterone has been so high for weeks and weeks and months and years from not having enough sodium in your body. And your aldosterone is so freaking high, and it's just like, give me some sodium. And this is a very important point I want to make too, because this has to do with potassium. So again, a lot of people in the high carb, low fat movement are obsessed with bananas, like that's basically their main staple of their diet. And according to this, let me just read this. If your potassium to sodium ratio levels are too high, this can also cause your aldosterone to increase too. So imagine, if you will, you decide to go high carb, low fat, right? And you're just, let's say you haven't even cut out salt yet. You're just like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna eat tons of bananas because bananas are the perfect food, right? So I'm eating all these bananas, my potassium is super high, like whatever, I'm doing great. And then let's say you cut your sodium. So you cut your salt, like you're just like, no more salt. I heard it's bad for you. It's going to make my cellulite like awful, like no more salt. So you've just done like a double whammy on your body, because not only if your sodium potassium levels are all messed up, that is going to raise your aldosterone levels, plus the fact that your sodium is super low, that's going to raise it. So there's no telling how jacked up your aldosterone is right now. Like, that's why if you even just look at a little grain of salt, you're gonna like bloat up, right? And the thing is, a lot of people, when they eat salt, they're like, you know, they see themselves bloat up and they blame it on salt. They're like, oh my gosh, salt is so bad. Like I can see it, my eyes are puffy, and my hands are like really, really puffy. Like I can't even wear my rings and stuff, and like my gut is hanging over my jeans, and like, oh my gosh, like salt is the devil. No, salt is not the devil. The devil is the fact that you've jacked up your aldosterone in your body, and now your body is just doing what it is built to do, like what it's made to do. It's trying to regulate all of this stuff that it's been messed up for so long. So again, I want to drive home this point that just because something looks like a positive on the outside, just because you go on a low salt diet and you lose 10 pounds in a week, just because you go on a low salt diet and your cellulite disappears, just because you go on a low salt diet and you stop retaining so much fluid or whatever it is, that does not mean that it is necessarily healthy. All of these societal and cultural like preferences that we have our life built around are causing us serious health problems. And, you know, to cut salt out and to get those results might seem like a good thing, but from a health perspective, it is not a good thing. And so don't blame the bloating and everything on salt. You need to blame it on the fact that you decided to go on a low salt diet, and now here you are with jacked up aldosterone hormones, and you're like, salt is so evil to me. Like, no, it's not salt. It is your body trying to say, I'm trying to work things out here. Like, let me do my job. So people want to know, okay, like, I totally get this. Like, what am I supposed to do now? The solution is, number one, don't cut salt from your diet. If you're thinking about doing it, don't do it. Number two is, if you've already done it, I highly encourage you to slowly start adding salt back in. This doesn't mean go buy like a giant tub of salt and start pouring it over everything. I would start doing a little bit every single day. You know, be sure that you're drinking enough water. There's no like upper limit or lower limit. You just need to be sure that you're drinking enough water. If you're thirsty, drink. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, be sure you're drinking a gallon a day and all that stuff. That's ridiculous. Drink to your thirst levels, but take your time with this. Yes, you are going to like retain water in the beginning. That's the whole point. I mean, that's like, it's just like your body's surviving. If you've been stranded on a deserted island and you've been starving for months, and then you get off and you go eat at a buffet every single day, you're going to gain some weight. Why? Because that's your body's natural processes of surviving. It's the same thing with this. If you've messed up your aldosterone hormone, or it's too elevated, or whatever's going on with it, and then you start reintroducing the number one element that hormone is responsible for, there's going to be some changes that go on. Change is not always a bad thing. Change in this situation would be a really good thing, because then you're lowering your risk for all those other things that I talked about before. You're fixing your aldosterone, you're fixing your body, you're giving your body what it needs, and it's going to thank you in the long run. And yes, your body will normalize over time. How long? I don't know. Everybody wants to know how long. Like, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Like, how much longer? I did it for 2 days and now I'm so bloated. Like, okay, like, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a specific day for you. It's going to take time. Everybody is different. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, or what you're doing. It's going to be different for each and every person. The last thing that you want to do is eat a lot of sodium and then the next day freak out when you wake up and you're swollen, and do some type of cleanse, and then eat more like salt and then do a cleanse. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. It has to be a consistent thing. Your body runs best off of consistency. Anything that's too much or too low, too intense or whatever, is going to throw your body off big time. It loves consistency. It loves peace. It loves just like baseline, just super easy, nothing insane. So that's how you have to treat it. You have to respect your body in that regard. Remember too that like the rest of the world is eating salt on a day-to-day basis, like meal by meal, day by day, they're eating salt. They are not blown up like balloons floating away into like another galaxy. Like, they're living, they're okay, you know? Granted, some people might be eating too much salt. I mean, if you're eating as low as you are and you're having these type of experiences when you eat like just a few little granules of salt, that is a big issue. I would not be concerned about the other people eating a lot of salt. I would be concerned about me at that point. So number 9 is the fact of how salt can help so much with your digestion. This is a huge thing, and I've seen so many people benefit from this. Me, myself, I've benefited from this, and it's been awesome. Salt is required for the absorption of glucose and most of the amino acids in the small intestine. And particularly phosphorus and magnesium are severely affected in this when you're on a low salt diet. They don't get absorbed as well when you're eating super low salt. Big thing about this is like people, you know, track all their food in Chronometer or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I got so much magnesium today and like my vitamin levels are so high, like I'm so healthy, but I do kind of feel awful. Like, I don't understand. I thought I was like this superhuman, you know? And it's like, let me just explain this. Just because you eat something does not mean that your body absorbs 100% of that food, 100% of that vitamin, whatever. That's not how it works. It's not like the whole idea of putting in a quarter and getting out a prize. Like, you don't put in a banana and you get 100% of that potassium into your body. It does not work like that. Scientifically, we haven't figured out exactly how much is absorbed and how much isn't. And for every person, this is totally different. Some people absorb a whole lot better, some people don't. A lot of this depends on maybe medication, maybe different stomach issues that you have. People with celiac disease might not absorb as good. People with lactose intolerance, people with like a history of binging and purging and laxatives and diuretics and, you know, like anything. I mean, it could be a genetic issue, like whatever it is. Just because you eat something doesn't mean you're going to absorb 100% of the nutrients from that food. Do not think that just because your Chronometer app tells you that you've had 5,000% of vitamin A actually means that you have absorbed 5,000% of vitamin A. That's why I tell people, don't count your calories, don't look at the numbers, don't look at the percentages, just eat good whole foods and you will be fine. Nobody else in the world is tracking their calories and their nutrients and their vitamins and minerals on a daily basis. They're just eating and they're living their life. Like, it's okay. So the big thing about salt with digestion is that chloride actually forms hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Hydrochloric acid is huge for digestion. You have to have this to help digest all of the food that's going on in your stomach, and it also helps with absorption of the minerals. So if your body is super low in hydrochloric acid, you're going to experience a lot of digestive problems. So just by adding a little bit of salt to your food is going to increase the hydrochloric acid, which in turn is going to increase the digestion that's going on in your stomach. You're going to feel a lot better. You know, you're not going to have as much bloating. You're not going to have as much problems going on. Like it's been even said to help reduce acid reflux and stuff like that. So add a little bit of salt to your food if you're having stomach issues. It will help a ton. And the 10th and last reason why I think you should eat salt is because it tastes freaking good. Like, who does not want to eat salt? It is so good. I promise you, when you put just a tiny little bit of salt on like a piece of bread or on a potato or on some fruit or anything, salt goes good on anything. It tastes amazing. And like, not just for all these other benefits, but just for the taste of it. You know, go buy some of your favorite sauces, your favorite spreads, your favorite, like whatever, just eat it, you know? And by letting yourself free in this regard, it's so much easier to go out to eat. Like, you're not flipping out over how many milligrams of sodium does this dish have or whatever, like looking on the internet and stuff. Like, you can just go and enjoy yourself and have a good time and not worry about it. You know, don't go crazy over this. And personally, me, I just eat like whatever, you know? I love Himalayan salt. Like, that is my go-to. I think there's a lot of great properties from that, but at the same time, I'm not going to restrict myself from other types of salt either. Like all the sauces that I have, they're not made with like organic Himalayan pink salt. Like, they're just made with salt, like whatever. I'm gonna eat it, you know? But if I'm sprinkling stuff, I'll go with Himalayan. If I don't have Himalayan, I'll do the next thing, like whatever. I'm not gonna ruin my life over this. I'm not gonna get obsessed with this. Like, I'm just gonna eat and move on. Life is more than food. Life is more than salt. Like, let's just eat and go on with life. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I'll see you guys next time.